Hello and welcome to Revit for BIM Training Seminar, Session 2, Mass and Family Modelling, Part 5, Further Massing Forms. Okay, so if you're following on from the previous videos, please close down all of the open files you may have using the close or control and function 4. Okay, we're going to open a new conceptual mass, metric mass, back into our empty environment. Okay, so we have 3 work planes as default, which you can draw on in 2 dimensions to define 3D forms. So far we've only done some basic 3D forms. I'll repeat that very quickly. I'm going to select the floor to select the work plane I want to draw on. Use a draw tool, this time a rectangle, to draw a form. Escape off, select the form, and hit the Create Form button to extrude it into 3 dimensions. Okay, so that's very basic. If I wanted to draw vertically, the same process, select the form, select a rectangle, draw on the vertical face, select it, and hit Create Form. Okay, so I'm going to use Ctrl Z to undo that previous one. We're going to talk about 3 further ways of creating forms in the massing environment. There is a loft, a sweep, and a rotate. Combination of a variety of extruding, lofting, sweeping, and rotating. You can pretty much create any form you can think of. So let's look at some of those now. First thing, let's give us some more work planes to work on. A very quick way to do this is to copy around our existing work planes. We could use the copy command on the modify bar, but I want to demonstrate the fact if you just hold the control button, click and drag, you get a copy of the work plane. Select off, control button, click and drag. Okay, I'm going to repeat that with my vertical faces as well. Trying to keep a lookout for that blue dashed line, which means I'm staying quite neat and perpendicular to my original. It doesn't really matter if we go off the perpendicular, this is just so mine looks neat, yours can be whatever it likes. Okay, so I have a bunch of work planes ready to have 2D shapes drawn on them. First thing I'm going to demonstrate is a loft move. Now, a loft move is a way of combining multiple profiles, can be as many as you like, but minimum of 2, to create a form. If I was to do 2, select the floor, draw a circle, select the top work plane, maybe draw a rectangle. I can select that object, press and hold my control, select that object. So those are 2 profiles which are now going to be merged into one shape by hitting Create Form. Okay, it's very simple. If I undo that last Create Form move and select my central one, I can add a further form into here. This time press and hold my control to add all 3 to the selection, and you'll see that it creates a shape interpolating through the 3 profiles. Okay, I'm going to completely undo that process and leave myself with the one centralized shape that I drew on the floor. If you notice, I was quite quick and I wasn't particularly neat with that process then. I'll show you how to do it in a neat way. If I was to select this level 2 work plane, if I go to my viewer within the work plane box, that shows that work plane from above. Now if I click into this environment, I can now be quite accurate with my drawing. If you notice, it's not perfect, but I can make some changes here. Like so. I should have actually selected that edge to do that move. I just tabbed through then to either select the whole chain of wall lines or just the edge, and I can move out like that. Okay, click back into this environment here, the 3D environment. If I now select my third level, notice the two forms beneath in my level viewer, my work plane viewer, are greyed out. I can still see them. That doesn't mean I can't snap to them and create a closed shape such as that. Okay, so closed down. I now got three forms, but they are neatly spaced above one another. Use my control to add to my selection, select all three, hit create form. Okay, so that's using the viewer to be neat. So if I want to modify one of these profiles, I can select the profile itself and move it around in relation to the other profiles on the other levels, but I can't change its shape. I could scale it, and I've demonstrated this in previous videos, or I could rotate it, but I can't actually change that form there, that triangle outline. If I do want to do that, I have to go into Edit Profile, grays everything out, turns that profile pink, and I can make changes to it there. Now again, I'm going to go to the viewer so I can do this accurately. Click in here. I'm going to add an extension out there. I'm just going to split this line in two and then use my corner trim to select the lines I want to keep. But just remember, this needs to be a closed shape. You can't leave any holes in it. If I was to leave a hole and then try and press my finish editing mode, I'm going to get unable to create form. So I need to draw that line back and then hit create form. Close that down and you can see the changes. Slightly more tricky is selecting that center profile. Selecting the bottom profile is easy enough. I can go there, hit edit form, cancel out of that. But selecting that center profile you might find a little tricky. I'm going to tab through the possibilities, click on the edge, and then go to edit profile like that. Okay. So while that's all selected, I'm going to hit delete to get rid of that form. I end with a legacy graphic here, which comes from that last level that I clicked on. To get rid of that, just click on the floor, or click on one of the other work planes to get rid of it. The reason I can see my work planes while I'm not doing anything on them is because I have show turned on. I find it helps to visualize what I'm doing. Next, we're going to look at sweep as a way of creating a form. Sweep involves a path and a profile that is then sent along that path, and we'll have a look at a few different options here. So I'm going to draw in the vertical, and I'm going to create just some simple lines for now. So I have a simple line drawn on there. Now if I want to add a profile to that line, and you'll see what I mean by a profile. A nice way to do it is use the point element. If I click on the point element and then grab any point along this line, but best to avoid the ends of the sections, it just confuses matters. There's multiple work planes at that point there, so I have a point that's along this line. If I select that point, you'll see that it has a work plane associated with it. Go to Viewer, and I'm now looking at that work plane. Click into this environment, and I'm going to just add a circle to that line there. Okay, click back into this environment, use my additive control pressing selection to grab both lines, and then hit create form, and you'll see that the profile is sent along the path. If I wish to edit this profile, very much similar to the Loft, I can come in here, select part of the curve that forms the profile itself, go into edit profile, I get my pink option, and that allows me to make changes. I'm going to add a further circle to it and split it there and there. Use my corner and then form like that. Just added that shape to it. Okay. This needn't be one profile that goes around this path. So if I delete everything off, start again. This time I'm going to use a spline through points to give me a smoother curve. Hit enter to finish that. Using a spline is very nice when creating this because each click of the spline has got its work plane associated with it. So I'm going to go to my viewer, and this time I'll do a pentagon. Notice here I can change how many sides the pentagon has, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a pentagon. Escape out of that command, click back into this environment, click on that dot there, notice I'm in, go back into my work plane again. This time I'm going to create a square, just rotate that so it's in line. Again, go into this environment, select my end one, and let's have a inscribed pentagon, but this size, make it 3. So in here that gives me a triangle. Okay. If I close my viewer down, use my control button on my keyboard to select the 3 profiles and the path at the same time and hit create form, you see I can pretty much create any shape I like using the sweep command.